Good morning. How's everybody? Great. All right. Glad to see you here. I'm Gail Doby, and I want to just thank our...
I need to do my tap dance.
Oh, please do. Please do.
So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Universal Furniture. Thanks for being here. If it's your first time to our space, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. But we have a lot here this week at High Point Market for you. Including our brand new Designers Lounge, which is located in the atrium. It's a dedicated space for trade only. There's a lounge space in there. There's some leather goods being sold from Warren Giles. There's some great giveaways from Design Manager. And there's some speaker sessions in the afternoon, including Gail, in our little Krypton lounge area. And there's also a beauty bar for hair and makeup touch-ups as needed.
I
know. So just in case. But the showroom itself is 115,000 square feet. We have a great lunch. Feel free to stay as long as you want. And we have a brand new collection that we partnered with a Houston-based designer, Nina Magan, which is up on the third floor. So we've had the opportunity to work with Gail now for the last couple of years, I think two years, and have been really impressed with what she does and what she brings to the table, just in terms of, I think, working with designers and the business side of running a business. And we've had also a great chance to meet Kathleen Dipaolo.
Yeah.
Nice to say it correctly. And I know they have a lot of information to share with you today, and I'll let them get started. So thank you for coming.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Neil, they have been just an amazing partner, and their lunch is fabulous. All their food is great here, which is kind of a nice little feature of coming over here to Universal. But of course, they have a great line as well. So we encourage you to take a tour with some of their salespeople when you get a chance after this or in between, and then come this afternoon if you can to our Unplugged session, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. We have 2 topics today and 2 topics tomorrow, and we start at 2 o'clock and go till 4 o'clock, so we have 2 topics today back to back, and you can come and join, and Kathleen's going to assist me with that as well, so it'll be a lot of fun. So, yes, this is our tap dance, and Kathleen has become a new great friend. It's so funny, we didn't meet each other until last year.
Design Blogger Conference.
Design Bloggers Conference, and I walked by and I saw her sign, and I saw Shamin, who used to run High Point Market, and I thought, I'm backing up to see what's going on. And I started looking through her book, Return on Interiors, because she is, I'll share this in a second, but she is a geek, a complete geek, and she loves processes and procedures. So I started looking through this book. It's about that big, and maybe you have an example. Oh, she does. And these are the processes and procedures this woman has put together. And yes, I know, for our industry. So I'm so excited about this, and I want you to know she has come the longest distance to come here. She flew in from Budapest to be here with me today so that she could assist, and yesterday and tomorrow. So make the most of her.
Hooked with you.
Yes, because she absolutely has an amazing breadth of knowledge, because she is a designer as well, and she has flipped 300 homes. Can you imagine that? And she was based in California. And so now some of those are rental properties, and her husband's business took them overseas. So they were in India last year when she came and spoke at our Genius Exchange. So anyway, she has an MBA, she's a designer, and she is a brilliant person. And she, again, she's a nerd about all those things we all love to do. How many of you love doing processes and procedures? Oh my goodness! You guys are all sick too. Well, that's part of the fun. And she's a blast to be with. So we've enjoyed so much being with Kathleen. And I know she's going to make this a lot of fun today. I'll assist a little bit, but basically I'm just tagging along for the day. But thanks for being here, and thanks for making the trip for everybody. And I know you guys are going to get a lot out of this today. And you're going to get you got a great handout. And then we'll make it available to you to have some of this material so that you can actually have some things to work on, even if you're not a geek. So I'm going to let Kathleen go ahead and start.
Thank you, Gail. And you guys, thank you so much for being here, because this early in the morning and market, there are just maybe a couple things you could be doing. So I really appreciate it. And especially welcome you to come talk about such an important subject, which is systemizing your design business. And I know, right? Are we ready for a woohoo and a dance right now?
Yes.
I hear it. So anyway, as I said, welcome and thank you to Universal because this place is really amazing. I've never been here before, so for me, I was fired up. Anyway, my name is Kathleen Dipaolo, as I said, and this was me, and this has been me in the last 3 years, and I would like to do that yoga pose, but I'm not sure if it's early. I lived in India. I was in Delhi, and as Gail was mentioning, my husband's business took us over there. And this is me with the snake charmer, and this was me freezing my hiney off this winter in Budapest. Okay, I'm saying Budapest because that's when I learned how to say Budapest instead of Budapest, so if I fall back and say the wrong words, you can just laugh at me. But yeah, I was that cold, and I had this hat as a joke, but the joke was on me, right? So, how did we get back there? As I was saying, we first moved to India 3 years ago because my husband, his business took us from Southern California to India. He was commuting 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and that got old really quickly. I mean, the guy literally lost his hair and turned gray, and I think he has like 3 hairs left. But, oh, I'm just kidding. Oh, he's got hair. But the commuting chaos, I knew, just couldn't last. So I'm sure a few of you here might have families as well, and I have 3 children. And running a business, running the family with no husband is always really fun and stressless. So I thought, we've got to figure out a better way. And he said, well, they did ask me to move, but I wouldn't think you'd want to move from Newport Beach, California to India. I'm like, hells yeah, let's do this, you know? Like, who gets that chance, right? And I knew it would mean a couple changes in life, and that would be a big one for my design business. And does anyone here like change? Not a fan, right? So, for me, I have 2 ways of dealing with change. And the first is complete denial. I literally, for half of the year, proceeded as if he was just down the street, my husband, you know? And that was great for a while, and then I realized, I can't deal with the chaos anymore. I need to have some systems in my business to at least make my home life not seem as chaotic. And obviously I'm a systems nerd, as Gail has implied and said to many people, in front of me and behind my back, I'm sure. But that was what I had to do. I mean, I'm a designer. I'm sure you guys, as designers, juggle a few balls in the air, right? That's what we do in our business, is there's always something. And I always feel like a million balls, and those are all the details in our design business. And you know what? That's what makes us special and unique, is that one detail. It's that one nail head on here. So those are important. And we sit there and we kind of pray that they're not dropping, and you know, we need to have the vision. So that's how I kind of feel in my life at that point, was like, okay, I'm juggling, what do I do? So during that time, I thought if I could just nail down my business, systematize it, I could feel at least a little relaxed. And so this is what, as Gail was saying, I started doing, was taking all of the systems and processes that we do in our design business, from communications to setting up binders to everything else, and just making a system and a process so I didn't have to think about that and worry about how is it going to get done. Am I going to look professional? Am I going to be, you know, look like the rock designer? So that is what I did. And I do have a weird way of looking at things. So does everyone know what this is? Right. And what do you see when you see this picture? No one? They're like, okay, blue sky, the Colosseum, throngs of people, right? So this is me going okay, that is one good benefit about living in Budapest, is that you're so close to everything in Europe. So for Christmas, we got to go over here to Rome, with our $50 flight. So when I got there, I saw these people, and I'm like, oh God, am I even ready for it? But then I realized, first thing I saw wasn't even the architecture. I went, those Romans are geniuses, or genii. This was built in 70 AD, and all I could see was a process. I saw these throngs of people, just as it probably was, back in the day. And that whole goal in the creation for this architect was getting all those throngs of people in and getting them out. And I love that. I love that they were doing that then. And people still today are doing it. Has anyone been to the LA Coliseum? Okay, I would say, yeah, fight on for USC, but now it's like a bad thing to say that you went to USC since, I didn't pay for it or anything, But anyway, so they still use that system. They still are trying to get throngs of people in and out, and that's what I just love. I love going to different places and seeing systems and processes. Woo! So today I want to talk about 3 main questions. And the first is, why do we need processes in our design businesses? And how do we know what processes to actually use in our businesses? And lastly, what brilliance emerges, when we apply all of these processes to our business. And yes, I'd love to say that the unicorns come and your business is grow exponentially, but that's not exactly what happens. But what does indeed happen is that you get to be and work in your zone of genius. You get to create, having systems gives you time in your life. Time to bring that space that you need to create your designs and do those things that you actually like to do and brought you into the design business in the first place. And this is where your purpose and your creativity, they collide, and that's where you really, I think, work at your peak performance. And so when we look at our businesses, how can we possibly be strategic and grow our business and do all of that stuff when you're running around like a crazy person and you're juggling those balls and you're dropping 10 over here and 5 over there? You just can't work on your business when you're kind of stuck in that minutia and those detail balls. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes here to just dream for a second and go to sleep. I'm kidding. But I know that whole zone of genius sounds a little bit nebulous, but wouldn't you really love to be able to do all those things in your design business that you actually have fun doing? And I just wanted to do a quick exercise. We have a little handout here, just some notes on the back, nothing to worry about, but I just want you to be able to visualize what that is in your actual businesses. And it's that work that you do when you forget that you're working. And do you guys all have that stuff that you do that you sit down and you're just like, oh my God, I'm in my jam. I have my mojo going and this is it. That is that feeling that you want to try to, bless you, get to in your businesses. And my other question is, you might see, okay, I know, it's when I'm doing this, or when I'm pulling fabrics, or when I'm doing something. But you have to get into a frame of mind before you can get into that place where you're in your zone. And you have to just remember that, what is it? For me, if I walk into my office and the desk has stuff on it, I will lose it. I will spend the next 4 hours, cleaning my desk, which leads to, doing the file system, and then the samples, and then, you just go on those crazy things. So how do you start working in that place that's going to set you up for success? My sister might be going on a walk. She loves hiking, and that just kind of gives her the space that she needs to really visualize and dream. So while we're talking about all these places, like the zone of genius throughout this talk, I just want to make sure that you guys can grab a little thing and that awareness of what will get you there, so you can kind of weave that into your story. Whether it's in conversations with your friends or your clients or whatever, but that's the thing that makes you different from everyone else. And that's what, we all are different. There's no competition out there. There really is just our special differences, because we all come from different backgrounds and different, places we lived and everywhere else. So just think about those kind of things, and that's you, that's your core. Okay, Kathleen, so now what, right? We can visualize, we can see the value of processes, you can recognize the importance of just implementing those in your business. So what specific systems do you actually need in your design business? And more importantly, okay, we're not islands. We do not do our businesses by ourselves. What systems can we implement, or the staff or our partners on our teams implement to give us that time and space? Well, the only way I can, talk about it is to talk about me. It's all about me. So let me just share what I did with my design business. And I've always called myself a puzzle solver. I'm sure we can all kind of relate to that. Again, it's kind of that throwing up these pieces out and you're like, oh my God, it's a hot mess. That room is a hot mess, and let me just get those pieces out and get some pinks over here together and maybe put a border together of a puzzle. And then somehow we put them all together and we make this beautiful puzzle. And I felt like that's what I was doing. I'm like trying to create beauty when I was trying to create these processes. And what were those puzzle pieces that I had? And there's so many, as you know, for me, everything means I can do it better next time. So I'm going to talk today about 7 of these systems that I think are really core to helping you guys systematize your businesses. And these are real things. And the first thing I wanted to talk about are your digital files. And everyone here has had that moment, I'm sure, at least, or maybe I am the only one, but where you're sitting there at a client's office or project and you're with the contractor and your client's standing there and the AC isn't working yet, so you're sweating, and they're like, oh yeah, what is that file? And you're like, oh, I got it, just 1 second. And you pull up your phone and they're staring at you and you're going down and you can't find the one thing you need, right, to move on with that. And that sweating, that's actually what happened to me before I said, there's got to be a better way. I've got to be able to find these files. So I, of course, went to Dropbox, and it's a cloud-based file. We all have different ones that we use, but for me, I would marry Mr. Dropbox. That's just me. But it's not only Dropbox itself, it's how you save your documents and having a system to actually save them for you, your team, everyone else, so we can all find what we need when we need it. And having a consistency so that when someone else kind of saves a document, I bet you it's around here. And this method, I actually printed out for you guys. No, I didn't print it out, but anyway, I have a step-by-step kind of a process to really help you get your digital files in your office together. And it may seem overwhelming, but the way I look at it is you start with the one you have. Start with the most important client and then go forward. You can't think of the hot mess that you've been in, but you have to go forward. So I'm just going to do a little highlight here. This is the general setup. I kind of created fabulous designs because we are fabulous. And I systematize things. Do you notice these numbers here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, I can count. And so I have these dashes, and I have FD for fabulous designs, and then I have my clients. And then I have business docs. And you go, why in the world do you have the numbers? It's because that will come up first. And the most important things are the ones that you want to come up first. So it's not just, by alphabet. you can actually say, this is what I want first. And then you can have your clients, and again, you can organize them however you want. Smith is at the top because that's the client I'm dealing with right now. That happens to be that one that, oh God, I gotta get this and this and this. So this is kind of the method of doing it. And within each client, that's what I do. I have another whole set of things, like your PowerPoints, your proposals, your invoices, your floor plans. And it may seem like a hard thing to start, but once you do it, you don't even think. It becomes a system, and when everyone's doing it, you're all on the same page, right? Because what happens? You save time and really embarrassment and stress and all those other things that, people are looking and asking you for questions all the time, and if they can't find something, it slows you down. And if you do it once and you do it right, then you have that time in your life, and you can stay in that zone, or you can get into that zone. Now, the second system is communication. And, I always ask, what are the rules in your design universe? Okay, that may sound a little Star Wars-y or something, but our universe is pretty darn big, right? We have so many facets of our business. It's not the pillow fluffing. So 90%, this is me saying there is no backup except for my life, of our job problems are due to lack of communication. The balls that drop are somehow, whether it's internal or external communication, it's something that happens, and you just end up having to pay for these costly mistakes that happen, which is, again, the impetus of trying to find a system. So what kinds of communication do we have as designers? Well, we have our internal with us, our assistants, the staff, whomever that's working directly with you. And every project we're on, we have a team that we work with that's not necessarily your employees. You're working with your client's hired architect maybe, or maybe their best friend is a color specialist, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's great. So you have these teams, and each of those people have their teams too, their subs, and you're all teams, right? You don't even know them, but you're a team. And then the other kind of group that you communicate with are your clients. And you have to communicate with them because that's a whole other thing. So internally, the first thing I had to stop was email. Who likes email?
Anybody?
Really? My God. I used to get fired up when I hear that. You got mail, Okay, I'm dating myself. But I love that. But it's that, trying to search for that one email. That's hellacious. So again, I kind of went cloud-based immediately for all of my communication internally. So we knew to put something somewhere where we could find it. And does anyone here use Asana? A few people, or Trello? And then what about? Does anyone know what that is on the top? Airtable? It's relatively new. It's kind of my new favorite thing. It's kind of a combination of everything, but the top one is Airtable. I guess it looks like a table maybe, in the air floating. But we basically have all of these details. And again, that's what makes our design, but we shouldn't remember every detail. You should not have every single thing in your brain accessible at all times, because you can't remember it. There's that thing that kind of, other ear where it kind of flies out, that one detail. I swear, it feels like a sieve because you have more and more. You have all the details for one chair. Think about a room or a whole project, and then you have 15 projects. There's just no way. So putting all of these details in a cloud-based system really helps when you're working on your project plans for your design, and communicating all of the to-dos that we have. In Asana, you can assign things for your staff, or for yourself and put them in your calendar and have it sunk, so that you know what is due and when. So then it takes all the thought out of it. You just open up your phone, you open up your laptop, and you're like, okay, that's what I'm doing right there. This is what it's due. And then if someone in your staff actually does something, do you ever have those moments before you go to sleep and go, oh, did they do that? You can look on your app and go, oh, thank God, okay, now I can actually sleep. So all of those things, little to-dos, and you can get as minute as you want and need to, but having those in a cloud-based system, I mean, you guys use it all the time, right? For everything, not even, like every project is so important. And to see where everyone is, so you guys all stay on the same page. The other thing is communicating with clients. They're giving you a lot of money. And that's something where they hand you a check and you're like, nope, you don't get a hamburger. You're gonna have to wait for 7 months and we're gonna gather everything and do everything and trust me, it'll be great. No, they just want to know that their money is still there and they really will have something beautiful in the end. So communicating with them is just so important. And I know it feels like a pain a lot of times, but you just have to, the more you do it with them, and I'm a firm believer in at least once a week, I always do a Friday update for everyone. Even if there's nothing going on, you're saying, hey, this is what's happening, do you have any questions? So that they can look forward to saying, I'll just save that for that Friday email, and then ask the question then. Then you need some to-dos on that Friday email as well. You need things from your clients in order to, get your job done.
Could I add something to that too?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is, we actually heard about Friday reports too from Jenny Vanderslice. I don't know if you all know her, but she has a team of 50. So they started doing the Friday reports. And so basically their outline was, the first part was, here's what we did this week, here's what we're doing next week, and here's what we need from you. And then I heard one of my clients mention this, and I thought this is very, very smart. And she was letting them know how much of their budget they had used. So she kept them up every week so that they would be aware of where they were on the project, and she's had no issues over bills. So if they had a certain number of hours they put in, they let her know or let the client know,
Yeah.
I did 20 hours this week, so they weren't surprised by those big time bills.
That's huge.
So, yeah, so it's kind of setting expectations and also keeping the client in the loop so they're a little bit prepared and then you're not getting blindsided. And here's the great benefit of this. On Monday mornings, or over the weekend, you're not getting those frantic texts, or Monday morning you get those angry phone calls where they've been thinking all weekend and stewing about it and starting to think, oh my God, what happened? Are we going to get this sofa?
Why are we doing this?
When is the sofa going to be here? Is it going to be here for Thanksgiving? You can always update your client, and that way you're not dealing with those freakouts on Monday morning. So
Exactly.
definitely, if you do one thing out of this whole session today, do that.
Yeah. And on that same thing, I always include a receiving report to say, oh, we've actually ordered this. And so they know, okay, so the money has been spent. Here's the order. It's been shipped, or it's in, your warehouse. Whatever it is in the status, that just makes them know that there's movement. Things are happening. They can't see it necessarily, but there is something going on. And back to those texts, Gail, I can't stand them. I like text, and I love that immediate, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. But when clients started using them for design decisions and details, the thing that happened to me, I was in the dentist's office, and my client texts, I look up, and then I'm waiting for my daughter, and they say, oh yeah, time to come in to go talk to the dentist. I opened it, but never read it, and it was an important decision that had to be communicated to the contractor. Totally dropped the ball. I didn't see it, I don't remember doing it, I was thinking about a dentist. And so after that, I realized I don't want to let my clients down. It's not for me, I mean it is really, but I don't like text at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. But for them, I mean, if you're framing it to your clients like, this is for you, and I don't ever want to drop the ball on you. You guys are my priority. That is the thing that I had to tell them, that I want this thing to go as smoothly as possible and not drop any balls, so there you go. No texting. So it didn't seem like you're hardcore, like, here's my rule and there it is. I couldn't have that worry, because that's what was happening. I kept checking and double checking and going, did I have any texts? And then I started doubting myself, and then, that whole other thing, that takes 7 hours of your day right there.
Oh, by the way, some of our clients actually put this in their contract.
Yeah.
That no texting.
Yep.
So that kind of sets that expectation up front. And you should review your contract with your clients when you're at the very beginning of the project.
Yep.
Half of the time they won't read them, and then they say, I didn't agree to that. So if you want to avoid those problems, you actually sit down and review that and explain exactly why you're not doing those certain things.
Yeah.
Like the texting.
Yeah, they get it. They're like, oh, of course. Like, why would I want that to happen? So it's just getting all of that time in your life back. Yeah.
So your recommendation is email only?
Yeah, with clients.
Okay, because I was just saying that I would rather text with somebody than get sucked into a 30-minute phone call, because that one decision that has to get made draws you into, this, oh, but wait, but this, oh, but this, oh, but this, oh, but this. So how, give me your take on that, please.
Well, I'm going to give a 2-second one, and that there are a couple of options. If you prefer the text method, then be sure and take a screenshot of your text and email that to yourself so you have a record of it, and make sure that that's a pattern. And if you have employees, make sure they're doing it too. But you need to decide what's going to work for you. It's just that text tends to be forgotten, and those strings get forgotten, they get deleted, and the clients forget as soon as they don't see it. You know what I mean? So they got it out of their head, and then they forget they ever said it. So just really think about that, because we're humans, and we do forget things. So it's your choice. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. If it works for you, that's great. But for me, at least, with having an email, you can set this up so that your email can go into Asana and become a to-do or have a due date or whatever it is. So for me,
Yes.
I can't do something on text, because half the time it was driving around madly, or you're on someone else's job site, or you're this. I'm too everywhere to be able to manage it. But if someone can, that's great. I'm with you on that, Gail.
Yeah, just remember that everything that you do, especially the more complex your business gets, the more clients or employees you have, and the more clients you have, then you're going to have to manage all those details and keep up with them and make sure that your team is also in the loop on that if you have people helping you on the team. How many people have employees here? Okay, let me ask the other way. How many of you do not have employees? Okay, well, you still have the same problem, because you have to keep up with all this stuff. So try to make it so it's systematic, and that's really the key that Kathleen is sharing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's saying that her question was, what do you do with a contractor who doesn't check emails? Well, if they're going to do text, then I would do that same thing, do the screenshots of it, and then you can send a confirming email.
That's the biggest, like, my
Yeah.
clients are okay with no texting, but contractors.
Yeah. Well, then do that. Just do the screenshot and email it to yourself so that you have a record. And then there's a way for you, if you have a project set up in Asana, you can actually go into the project and find the link for that project, and then email that text that you sent to yourself by email right into Asana, and then it can become a task or a record for your communication, sure thing.
Or an image. I mean, all the contractors I deal with are completely savvy with email and texting. I'm totally kidding right now. Sorry, my humor is so dry. No, that's the problem, right? Like, you're trying to deal with everyone, and it's like it's a hole. It's a hole. So you got to stand on the job site with the contractor to get any information. And it goes back to those weekly reports too. I mean, those Friday reports, I send them to the contractor and the people who are working there.
Yes.
And I often actually make notebooks and leave them on the job site so that people could, not that they're ever going to look at anything, but when or if there is that possibility, you can go, so, when I was talking about this and you agreed to that, there's a record out there, you know? Yeah.
So actually, I was wondering for both of you, do you ever have that as part of your contract or part of your understanding with the client? Because sometimes, like I have projects where they bring the contractor in, it's the nephew or whatever, and invariably, like current project right now, like it doesn't get printed out, it's not there on the job site, you see the drawings like in a border someplace, or they're trying to like look at it on their phone, you know, it's like, oh no, I did that drawing for me, you don't need to look at it, you know, but like, and they're trying to find it and look at it this big, like, so do you have anything, like any words of advice on helping contractors with process or organization or?
You can't rely on.
You know what, you need to have a process for them. She needs to do the documentation for them too,
The
I
process,
swear.
I did do that, I have done that.
Have you really?
But the thing is they won't do that, that's not
That's not
their
how they
wheelhouse,
think.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's no matter what, you're working with an architect, you're working with all these other people, it's your job, because who's the last person who really deals with the client? You're the installing
Yeah.
last voila. And so you have to take that lead and that responsibility, you don't want to. Yeah.
What we do for our clients, and it's so much work, but it actually works with our contractors, is we make 2 hard copies of the design books. One goes to the client, it's a big old binder. One gets handed to the contractor, even if our relationship is only with the client. And then we have the digital file.
We
And
did
in our
the same
contract,
thing.
and we tell people, we provide all of it.
Yep.
And it has, you know, and then that way, and we meet the builders, we sit down with them, we explain how it's organized, and we hand it to them. And in our office, we're making photocopies and hole punching. And, you know, it seems silly in this digital
Yeah.
age, but it helps.
I've done the binders, but then it's just like they're, you know, invariably they don't get used or. you know,
They're not up to date,
I have
yeah.
done the Dropbox.
Well, you gotta do it both
We do it
ways.
all.
You just gotta CYA, because honestly, if you could put a notebook, my contractor used to put it right there at the job site.
Yeah.
And I would be out there and we would start chatting. He said, oh, let me look in the notebook. And he got to the point where he was so well trained. And if you're working with one that you've worked with for a long time, they get to know your system. So he had the same subs. I brought subs to him and he hired them. And so we ended up having this great team. And everybody knew the notebook system. So
Yeah.
it works really well. Just a word of advice, and I think this is really important, and I think we forget sometimes we have a lot of conversations with people, and if we're not taking notes and then disseminating those notes to the people that were there, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, because the statistic is that people remember 10% of what they hear. 10%. So if that's the case, that 90% of what you just communicated went right out their heads and they've gone on to something else. So be sure if you can, if you do not feel like taking notes at the time, which I'm a huge note taker, you can actually record on your phone, and it's a really good way of going about it. And then you can have those transcribed if you want. You can have your team do it, because if they need to hear this, then if they hear that conversation, then they can transcribe and they're up to date and you don't have to spend your time going over it again. So just think about the efficiencies that you can put into your business too.
There's actually a software that you can use that'll send it automatically, you can speak it.
Dragon
send it
naturally
to your-
speaking,
and send it to your email.
It doesn't understand my accent. I tried, it didn't work for me, but Kyle, good if that's for you, yes.
When you're taking this notes, are you doing it, this is like a logistical question,
Uh-huh.
but are you doing it in like a notebook that you kind of keep with you all the time? Or are you doing it on individual papers that then get fed back into like the client notebook?
The best way for you to do that is digitally. You could have an iPad, because there are all sorts of things that you can keep notes in. And to me, I would just prefer to do it that way, and that way you can, again, email it to yourself and then share that with everybody. Yeah, just make it as easy as possible for yourself. Do you all have iPads? Yeah, iPads are just great. There's so many great tools that you can use on those now. And you can have, I have a client that is in completely digital. She has everything digital, including her notebooks, all the things that she does, her presentations, her drawing boards, or all of her boards that she does, all of it is digital. And it is unbelievable how well organized she is. So the more you can go digital, that's great, but it doesn't always work for the contractors. But if you're digital, you can also send it to yourself and print it, or send it to them and they can print it. And just always keep those records for yourself.
I too also.
Notes your friend.
I too also find that working with contractors, sometimes I take a picture of what I'm working on and then text them. Contractors, because they don't like to do a lot of writing, if they don't have to.
They're the worst at writing, aren't they?
Yeah, would much rather prefer the texting,
Yeah.
more or less.
But it goes all back to this team roles and like defining our roles. I mean, when you start a job, you're like, oh, you're the designer and you're the architect and you're the contractor. How many people have worked with contractors who think they're designers? Right? How about architects, right? I had an architect, I jumped in on a project and the entire lighting plan had been done, and you know, he had a wife who was, you know, designing light fixtures. I'm like, let's just step back here, guys, and like, let's talk about the client. Who wants to do what? Because we all are actually really overlapped. And every project, someone has a thing that they like to do. And I think defining everything in the beginning is huge and essential. It's just having to get everyone on the same page. Once you start that conversation, like you try to get it dialed in the beginning, it never happens completely because new things crop up. So it's the continuous refining and defining. And again, like these people aren't your employees. So you have to frame it as, what can we do to get this job done as fast as possible for our clients who are paying us? And everyone wants something fast, right? So they're like, okay, great, we'll do this, this, this. And also, it's like, has anyone ever had this happen? Where you thought the contractor was doing something and they thought you were doing something, or the architect or whatever. Once you define what you're doing, then you know whose responsibility is. And so those are those things where you're like, oh, thank God that ball didn't drop. And those are always those things that end up costing us money. So it's like just refining and defining and all of those roles is back to this whole team approach that we look at. And having that like clarity, that helps you on your mission and what you need to do. And again, just giving that time and space. I always have document this, like here's an interior designer. This is what I'm planning on doing. Now I have this for contractors. Does this work for you? Is this what you're planning on doing? And you know, all of those kind of things just help have it in black and white, you know, so we know exactly who's supposed to do what. Number 4, prepared professional questionnaires. I love alliteration. So we really need to show up for our clients. I had this one meeting where I met with a client at their house and we talked about the space, and I thought, oh my God, we are so in sync. Like, she's my girl, and I knew exactly what I was going to do for her and presented this beautiful design. And she's like, what? Like, what happened? And there were questions I had forgotten to ask, and really show that I am professional and that I am here and I'm worth the money. And by coming, I knew I had to make a system for that immediately. So by coming to, you know, a project and really going through all of the questions that we need to go through with my client, they said, oh, you know, I had no idea you thought of those things. You know, I had no idea you worried about flow in the kitchen, or, you know, where you're going to put your knife drawer, and what about your olive oil collection? I had one client who had. You know, it's like all of those things that you think about, and they say, yeah, that's what I need, and that's what I want, and that's your connection with them. Those showing up polished, you feel good, because they look at you like, this is the best. I've never had anyone ask me that kind of thing. And I feel like it's an approach that you have to have for every project. And it really shows that value. I mean, you have the same opinion on that, I know that. And we have a questionnaire for everything. I mean, from the kitchen to the bath to the bedroom, closets, living room. And, you know, I have to do it because I don't like, again, dropping that ball. And everything has a purpose in our design. Like, I had a client who ended up having like 4 different eating spaces. So yes, this dining room was not used every day. So there was a purpose for that, and they were entertainers. They loved to entertain. So, you know, every single detail that I did in this design went, you know, for that space. Then, in the same house, we had this outdoor dining area. That ended up being the one that they used all the time. So it had to be really indoor and outdoor. And then they loved their drink. So we have this, you know, bar up here on this island that's 12 feet long, and it was for their wine time. I don't know if you can even see, there's a little wine room next to it. And then this other little space to the left was not a breakfast nook, it was for tea. She loved her morning tea. And that's what I was like, oh, we're having a breakfast nook. No, I don't have breakfast. But I do like tea, and I do look out at this golf course, so I love spying on people, and this is perfect for me. You know, so it was more of a cozy spot, and she uses it every single day there. You know, so it's a different purpose for everything you do, and you have to show that we understand that, you know, to your clients, and that's why you're hired us. It's not to like pick out a sofa. It's because we want to understand you and how you function, and we want you to have everything at the tip of your fingers. And, you know, even here with these island, you know, the island that I had, it's, you know, the secret drawers that I had for the wine, and the water bottles, you know, pull-out refrigerators. All of those details are what makes the design. So, exercise time. Okay, you guys can do 5 jumping jacks. Or, think about this. So what would make you guys feel more polished and prepared and in your business? Because don't you feel when you feel prepared that you feel better and more confident, and you really feel worth it and more valued, and you know you're like, I am freaking worth it. You know, I think that's so important. So I'd love for you guys just to take a minute. There is on the back of this, just to write something. Is there something you could think of? Are these bringing you any points to your mind, that a system you can put in place in your business that would make you feel more polished and prepared?
And one thing I was going to say about systems too, one of my mentors had actually said, if you have any problems, does anybody have any problems in their business? Just a few. He always said that it's usually because there's a lack of a system.
Yeah.
And so once I got that in my head, I thought, that is exactly right. And so what we all want to do is get to the point where we're not having to think about our business. We want to use our brain power for the creative stuff. So the more we have systems, the more creative we become. So that gives you that extra boost to really spend the time getting systems in place, whether you're designing them or whether you're, you know, getting her system or whatever. It just is so essential for your business. So it's well worth the time and effort to put your time into doing that. It will save you in the end. Oh, by the way, before everybody, I know a few people have to just pop out. If you want to be entered in our drawing, we're going to be giving away a ticket to our summer event, which is called the Genius Exchange. It's going to be in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, which is really close to the big mansions. So if you all are interested, if you do me a favor, and you can give us your card, but on the front of your card, just put a little number, and the number is how many people are on your team. And then I'll pick those up while you're doing your exercise in just a second, and we'll draw for a ticket, and that's valued at $2,500. And for those of you we have really it's a minimum of $250,000 of revenue for people to come, because we want people who are scaling their business and growing. So if you're not at that level, which is fine, then we'll give you one of our contracts as a prize, as an alternative. So I'll be picking those up at the end of the aisle. So go ahead and start your little exercise.
Yep. Just take a couple minutes. minutes, you guys. It's something that has sparked something in you that you could do and implement immediately. Because again, we don't want to think, we just want to implement, right? Okay, thanks you guys. Thanks for those who are sticking in here. Right? Okay, the fifth thing. You're only 7, guys, so we're almost there. Your brand. You have this great logo and a fantastic website, and you're working it on Instagram, and are you really communicating what you do to your clients and to the world? I mean, are you actually understanding what your design, your niche is, and what your value to your clients is? And I did that. I got a logo, and I thought that was it. I've arrived, and then got this crappy website up, and thought that was even better. And then realized these pictures that I had, horrifying, right? I think I took them with an awful phone. So that was not my brand. Those were not going to attract the clients that I wanted. So you have to be able to show up in this polished and prepared manner and show who your brand is and communicate that in everything you do. And I think 90% of what we do are in these documents that we have with our clients, our forms, our checklists, are communicating to them how much time the project's going to last. What are timelines? What are all of the notes that we have for our meetings? Every single thing should have your brand on it. Everything should be consistent. And when I started this whole process, I had a lot of things done, but that logo was from 5 years ago, and that was my old office address, and the fonts have changed. So having everything be completely buttoned up, that proves your value. And it actually acts as your marketing, because you give these binders and stuff to your clients, and that once you have all of that, everything consistent and on your brand, and you understand and you live and you breathe, then you get those clients. Those are the clients that you want, that understand you. And 6 is binders. I mean, I know you were saying that someone has digital stuff. I keep digital binders with this filing system I use here, but I'm tactile. I'm visual. We get samples. We get CFAs. You need to put this. And guess what? Your clients are the same way. Remember those things where they give you all that money and they're like, I think I'm getting something. Having a binder that they can have and hold on to and has all of those beautiful images will help them dream about how they're going to live in this beautiful, simple lifestyle that you're going to create for them, that you don't have, but they will, right? And that is that important thing. It's like the binder that keeps on giving, because they show their friends. They're like, I'm just going to hold this because that's what I'm going to have and that's how I'm going to be. And I'm going to tell my friend about it. Well, there's your little marketing too. You're showing yourself with your brand and your logo and your designs. So it's something that's maybe a bit old school, but I live with the binders. I have, client binders that I give my clients at the beginning of the project. We were talking about this yesterday. And that they can, every time you kind of meet, they can add on to that. And all of a sudden by the end, they kind of visualize and go, wow, we've done a lot. And the binders are falling apart practically. Not kidding. But then we have the office binders. And then at the end of the project, I like to give a maintenance binder to my clients so that they can maintain and care for all of those beautiful pieces that they've invested in, because we're not here to give them something and run, although that'd be nice, but this is, and it also alleviates calls, because you say, I'm not the manufacturer, if you're not, but here's how you get it, and this is their recommended care instructions. And again, they're grateful. They're like, oh, didn't even know it. I don't get those calls of I spilled my wine, and what do I do for this pillow? And remember, the more organized you are, the easier your life is going to be, and your client's life, and your contractor's life, because you can help, them live their life. We sell beauty, we do. We're kind of these salespeople that we want to show how prepared we are and how perfect everything is. And if you show up with like tattered notebooks and you're frazzled, which is how you feel sometimes, that's when they say something's wrong and should I not trust this situation? And this disconnect, it causes those problems, those periods where I've had them happen with clients where they just start questioning things, going, well, she didn't have the answer. So what's happening with that sofa, But we want them to have this life, That's our gift to our clients. And in getting there, it's not easy, right? It's like you have to go through all of the questions, all of the processes to get there. And sometimes you don't want to do it. But if you have a system, you don't have to think. You just do it, And it also helps, like here, I have something where you're setting up a binder. I don't want someone to have to think about that. I want to be able to delegate to my assistant, this is what I want in a binder. These are the tabs that I want in there. This is the index. Don't think. That shouldn't be how you spend hours of your time. It should be designing and doing all those things that keep you in that zone of genius and really make you want to go to work, right? Because remember, I love this quote, the details are not the details, they make the design. And it's absolutely true, It's everything that we do is the detail. And we make a crap load of selections and specifications for each job, whether it's, just doing a dining room or building a new house or building 3 houses, It's like those details are essential to make a cohesive project for your clients and a cohesive house and a space and a whatever it is that you're designing. But they're also the problems, those are the things that drive us crazy, are those details. And having a place to put the details is what gives us a system, So if you're making these hundreds, if not thousands of selections for each job, whether it's, the furnishings or the lighting or the whatever, you have to have a way to do it. And so for me, I had to create a system to do that so everyone on my team could know, where do you find these things? Like from here, okay, you have your fabric. I used to have things that were only in Studio Webware, and it was hard to find the information you need. So having not only the fabrics, but the furnishings and all of these specifications in one area, and you get that call from your workroom going, what's the repeat on this? I got this. You can go and click on the link and go, okay, this is the repeat, this is what it's made of, blah, blah, blah. Or if you can't remember what the even room looks like, you see a fabric and you're like, that's right, I got it. Again, you don't want to have to remember all these details. Putting them in a specific systematized way digitally that you can access anytime and your team can will really help you just alleviate all of these questions that are out there and that stress. And again, this is exactly what I just said. So, because we are detail gurus, right? So that's it. I've talked about the 7 systems. I will recap them right now because I can hardly remember them. The first is digital files, right? Having a system, a consistent system, we're all looking at it. The second is communication, internally in our own little world with the people that work for us. The team, which is different on every project, which could be the architect or your contractor or the trades, your window treatment person, or your clients, the external communication. The third is defining those team rules at the beginning of the job so that the architect isn't doing my job and neither is that contractor. And number 4 was getting those questionnaires buttoned up and ready to really show our value to our clients and to let them know all of the things that we think of for them. The 5th is being consistent with your brand and letting it live in these documents like in your binders, which is number 6, is just making sure you're communicating who you are and what your value is and how awesome you are And then the last are putting a place for all those details that you have in the selections and specifications. So what happens once you get these these are the 7 core systems. Like, that's where you can live in this zone of genius. That's where you can actually have that time and do the thing that you love to do in your business. I mean, accounting was never my calling. It just never was. But by having a place where I can go and I know where I'm going to be working, I feel on purpose, I feel creative, I feel I'm in my jam. That's where we all want to be, and to give us some space in there. And that's what I hope systems will do for you, because that's what it did to me. And I still, every time I have any issue, because, right, every time we have a new project, you're like, never dealt with that before. Then you create a system to kind of put it to bed. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, I know you've got a lot of questions too, and I really encourage you, we'll draw just in a second for the gift. But whatever questions you have, please share those, and if you want to throw your name or your card in that bag, or that, whatever that is. Elephant foot. That's what it looks like. Definitely do that. So, does anybody have some questions for Kathleen or for me? Surely you have some.
There's so many project management systems out there, the ID Design Manager, Studio, all of those. Do you use one of those, or have you kind of found more success creating your own? Because some of it would be double work.
I use Studio Designer. I use that to manage all my purchasing and every part of a puzzle. For the sofa, the furnishings, really, the lighting, that kind of stuff. But the processes and stuff for a system is a little different from all of our communication that we have and all of our part with our jobs that a studio webware doesn't do. It's communicating with your clients, communicating with contractors, having, showing specifications, teaching your clients, like, what is a finish on this slab mean? All of those kind of things that help educate your clients and let them understand. That's not in a studio webware, Okay. Gosh, Gail's gonna pass that around. So anyway, it's different, and it's dealing with our daily business that we do.
Right. So you kind of use a program, and then you kind of almost stack on top of it to fit your own processes and procedures.
Exactly.
Questioner.
Oh, publishing that. Well, no. You know what? I printed this out in India, and I love India because someone actually sewed the binding on these things, But I wanted to print it out so I could just see what I had in the darn system. You put everything in the cloud, and you just forget the volume of the stuff. And so I don't sell that. What I do sell is everything in a PDF version that's branded with your logo on it, and then in either a Word or Excel version, so you can change it and ask specific questions that may be pertinent to you and your design firm. So you could have both things, something that's consistent you can send out to your clients, or like with the questionnaires, for example. The iPad to the iPad, I just bring those and we'll have them because they're refillable, and like you can tap in and save it. That's what I do for my clients. So anyway, it has that. It has also another website where you go into the portal and you say, I have a kitchen meeting on Monday. What do I need to bring? And I have broken it down with some videos and what downloads should you use and what you need to bring to the meeting and that kind of thing. Just, again, it's taking like the thoughts out of everything.
Will you share your slides?
Yeah, we can. So we've got your cards, so we can reach out and let you know when we have it set up so that you can have a download page for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do you have that book digitally?
Yeah, that's what
It is. So the little kind of the teal color flyer gives you a little bit of information about her product. So, and the pricing is on the back too. And Tiffany is at the back if you have some questions or if you're interested in the program, yeah.
Could you give some examples of what you, like, your client binder that you give in the beginning of the project? Like, what do you include in there, and or tabs, or like, what is that for, and how do you utilize that through the process of the design?
Yeah, basically, when I give it to them, I have a copy of our proposal, the signed contract or agreement, what do you call it?
Contract. Letter of agreement.
Letter of agreement. I know, I was like, wait, what word was that you used? Oh, look at you and your Cornet. And then I put any kind of PowerPoints, because I'm kind of a PowerPoint person, and put any of the PowerPoint presentations that I have out, or any of the meeting notes. I have a section for that. So you can always refer back and go, oh yeah, she did actually talk about that. Drawings, any kind of architectural stuff, any sketches, any,
Right, but that's at the beginning of the project, you're basically just creating tabs so that
Correct.
when we give the client,
Yes.
here's the drawing for the tile laid on the bathroom.
Exactly.
And you have that organized by type or by room?
I actually do things by room.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of the way studio is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you organize it the way it works for you, but I always had, the way it worked with my clients is we would just, I'd say, I'm coming over, well, I'll be here at this time. They would always have their binder out, and so I would talk to them, and I'd have things hole punched for them, and I would put it in the binder for them as we talked. So they always had the binder, and it was always out at the meetings, and it was really easy for us. And I don't want to miss you, you're over here.
Yeah, this is maybe a little off topic. We were talking about Studio Where I know they did like a version 2.0 recently, and I have actually switched to Ivy because the client interface seemed easier for my clients, but the internal workings have not been
Yeah.
efficient.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if anyone who's using the new WebWare, did it come with a better like client interface where you can send them a digital proposal and they can click a button to pay?
I thought they had that in the last version too.
The last
They
one
did.
I had was like, you had to send them an email and then like there was a link to go somewhere
Ah.
else to like.
Oh.
I don't know on that, because
I
I
don't know.
haven't used it lately.
They said that I couldn't migrate over until
Me too.
very soon. Yeah.
15th or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
I don't know what's coming up,
Yeah.
but.
So nobody migrated yet, or how is it?
Some people have migrated,
What? We're also in that old version.
yeah. I haven't talked to anybody about that.
That's
Yeah,
benefit.
they post, the last email I got is they postponed the migration till mid-April. I can't remember the exact date.
Okay.
So it hasn't happened. I did watch the video
Yeah.
last week, and there are,
I'm so nervous.
I
it's
know,
much more
I know.
user-friendly for the client,
Yeah.
I believe, which is, was their huge downfall.
Yeah.
I have a few clients that have migrated and it's buggy, but that's just something that happens with new software, yeah. Yeah, I always like to be the late adopter on software, because you're the one that's helping them figure it out. Okay, what other questions do we have? And we want to you guys want to bring that up so we can do a drawing? We'll be here for a few minutes too, if you guys want to come up and ask some questions. I'll let you do.
Oh, I'm excited. Okay, I like flowers and chocolate.
What do you mean?
Okay, this is Melissa Lee.
Winner!
All right, awesome. So this is for a ticket to the Genius Exchange. You have 4 employees, so you're probably at the level that we're saying is the minimum, which is great. So let me just tell you a little bit about Genius Exchange. It's on a Wednesday, we have a cocktail party. Thursday and Friday, we have sessions. We have 2 speakers. Nina McGon is going to be there for one morning. Anybody know Bria Hamill at Young? Bria's going to be there one day. So there are 2 keynotes. And then we have what we call our boardrooms. And we have 3 boardroom groups. These are all $1 million+ companies. And several of them will be leading group discussions. So people will be able to rotate around and meet with some of our different clients and hear about their best practices. It can be anything from construction design to technology to you name it. So we'll have a lot of topics, or how do you hire, how do you manage people? And the purpose is to share, because our community is very sharing and very giving. And so our boardroom members, we just had dinner with a lot of them last night, and they're really excited to be there and to help other people grow. Because most of our clients have, multiplied their businesses multiple times, and they love the fact that they can help other people do the same thing and support them. So, yeah, it's a really awesome event. It's so much fun, and everybody just gets along well, and you make new friends there. So, and being in Newport, you can go down to the coast and see all those beautiful old mansions. So we made it in a place where you guys, it's 30 minutes away. You'll be able to go down there over the weekend and check out some of those really cool places like the Vanderbilt Mansion, the Marble House, and all that.
That's why I fell in love with you, because you're just like me.
We love to travel.
We love traveling.
And spas.
But honestly, like everyone you work with, I was so impressed, is just giving.
Yeah, it's
And,
very great.
and this kind of industry can be so competitive.
Yeah.
But like, I'm an open book, I don't care. And I feel like that's what you are, it's like we're trying to lift each other up. If you elevate everyone else, it elevates the industry.
Yeah.
And
Pretty warm group. Lori has been following me for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years? I don't know.
Close to 10 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah, a long time. This is the first time we've actually gotten to meet, yeah. We have a lot of people bring their team, and Krista, are you still here? Oh, she's sitting right back there. She works for one of our boardroom members, and so they bring their client or their employees. And here's the really cool part: if you want to not have to go back and share your excitement, which never translates for your employees, but if they want to be there and experience this, they will help you execute whatever you learn there, and you will learn a ton of material at that session. So think about it. It's just an amazing event. We love doing it. We do it every year. And it's usually about 100 people or so it's a reasonable size, and we do all those breakouts, which are a lot of fun. Yeah. What other questions do you all have? None? We answered all your questions? Now you're going to be instant geniuses on processes. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and we're here, and please do come this afternoon. Thank you. Come this afternoon to the Unplugged. We'll do a couple of sessions. I'm not sure which ones are up today, but and tomorrow as well, 2 to 4.
Chatting with you.